Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen.
What's poppin', boys?
Been a long time coming. This feels great to say. First and Inch is back with another video. We are back. We've been on a hiatus. You know, life gets to us sometimes. We've both been busy. We have lives, but we want to get some stuff out before football season, and
that's the first thing.
I've been itching. I've been itching.
We hibernate when football's not going.
Yeah, this is true.
And then we start smelling the leather, and then we come back. Hit you hard in the summer.
I run out of acorns.
All fantasy stuff. We're going to hit you with everything.
Yeah.
What are we doing today, Mike?
Today's video, we're going to be doing wide receiver sleepers for fantasy football 2024. Not dynasty. We're talking redraft here. Mm-hmm. We were kind of quantifying this as wide receivers outside of the top 25 on Underdog ADP.
Yes.
When we did our research on this. Guys that we think can really pop off and become valuable. We used Underdog ADP for this because...
No, we actually did. We used...
I put Underdog down on my sheet.
You did Underdog?
Yeah.
I did Player Profile.
Same thing.
Because redraft.
Same thing, though.
Doesn't matter.
I used the positional ranking because I think Underdog is like sharper a little bit and it's wide receiver centric.
That's totally fine.
Doesn't really matter. Point being is guys that aren't going super high that we think are going to have good years this year. So enough of this bullshitting spiel.
Yeah, let's get right into it.
Start us off. Who's your first wide receiver sleeper for this upcoming 2024 season?
Last year, I had Nico Collins as my wide receiver sleeper, and
I was hating on it, honestly.
He went beyond my absolute belief. I can't even put into words what happened there. I'm going to try to follow a similar formula as in second-year receiver going to his third year and upgrading QB and whatever. So I'm going to take George Pickens as my first one.
Put that shit on.
Player profile, ADP of 41, wide receiver 28.
Yep.
So, yeah,
he's climbed up a little bit, I feel like, recently, too,
definitely.
right?
I mean, by me taking him a lot.
Yeah.
Best ball
sharper than a knife on Underdog, climbing his ADP.
Players around him, I'm taking him over. Tank, Pittman, Diggs, Cup. I think he's going to outscore all these guys, in my opinion. The biggest reason is huge losses in that wide receiver field.
Deontay out there is huge. It takes away 100-something targets right there.
Deontay amassed the eighth most targets in the league since being drafted, which is kind of crazy. He's a ball magnet.
He's a hog.
Exactly. So, in the 4 games that George Pickens played without Deontay Johnson last year, he showed really great stats. 28% target share, 3.0 yards per route run, and 16.6 fantasy points per game, despite dealing with a 68.8 catchable pass rate, which is 80th.
Who is it? Mason Rudolph and Kenny Pickett? Yeah,
exactly.
Pretty horrific.
Listen to this.
Arthur Smith.
Your jaw's going to drop. Listen to this.
I'm ready.
During weeks 2 to 7, while Deontay Johnson was injured, Pickens ranked top 12 in target share, top 10 in first read target share, top 7 in yards per route run, top 7 in yards per target over expected, and top 3 in yards after the catch per reception.
So he was just a monster without Deontay Johnson.
You know I like the rack.
Yeah, you like a little yak. You like a little yak.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about. So
same thing, rack, run after catch, yak, yards. Same thing.
He's getting a QB upgrade in Russell Wilson.
Even if it's Justin Fields, it's better than Kenny Pickett and Mason Rudolph. 100%.
So with all that coming together, he has also no competition. It's really Roman Wilson, Van Jeff,
Calvin Austin. Yeah,
Pat Fryer.
He's easily the best receiver there.
By far.
They're going to run the absolute piss out of the ball, I think, this year.
They probably should.
They're going to.
And when they throw the ball,
they're going to run the piss out of the ball this year.
They're going to give the ball a lot to Pickens.
100%.
So, yeah, he's had horrendous QB play, and he's finished as the wide receiver 31 and 23 in his last 2 years. I think he makes a similar step to maybe wide receiver... maybe 15.
I was going to say top 15.
Yeah, 14.
I can see that.
I think he goes a little bit earlier next year.
Arthur Smith just scares the shit out of me, man. I know it's still recency bias. Desmond Ridder was terrible, but
he kind of took the most out of Desmond Ridder.
Yes.
I think, in my opinion.
Probably, but that's not really saying much.
Okay, I agree.
Not a great, orange to squeeze there.
No, definitely not. But, yeah, so George Pickens, my sleeper, wide receiver 28, ADP 41.
I like it. I don't know if you're going to love this next one. I don't think a lot of people are going to like this next one. It's a guy that I always see getting a lot of hate on the internets, Twitters.
Memes.
Yeah, memes. He gets memed a lot. Christian Watson. Wide receiver 45 on Underdog right now.
A guy that I've traded to you in our Dynasty League.
Thank you very much. Thank you
thank you very much.
I know, I probably overpaid massively. We won't go into the details.
We should go into the details really quickly. What was
I traded a 2025 2025 first last year. I don't really mind. My team's going to be good this year, so
yeah.
I'm not too concerned.
If you hear some crying, it's my dog. I might have to put him on my lap for this.
Yeah.
For him to stop. Just give me 1 second.
We'll introduce
Okay, so
Ollie into the First and Inches universe here.
This is Ollie. He is a troublemaker.
He's a rascal. He is a rascal.
We're just going to need to keep him on my lap to make him quiet.
We'll make him happy. We'll get back into Christian Watson. I'm going to spin.
I'm sorry.
Don't worry about it. Ollie's very important to the First and Inches family. Let's spin a little narrative ball right here.
Yes.
Christian Watson. His career fantasy points per game. 11.5 PPR, full
Okay.
PPR. 11.5 on 23 games. Your boy George Pickens.
Okay.
11 points per game flat in 34.
Fair enough.
Drake London, who I love, think is going to ball out this year. Only 10.7 so far in his career.
Yep.
Obviously due to absolutely nightmarish quarterback play. But
Yeah.
Christian Watson has outscored two third-year receivers. He's not on Olave or Wilson's level, but
who are
all
going
from the same class. Two guys that he went ahead of George Pickens. Drake London was the 8th pick, but beyond the point.
But this year in fantasy, they're both going
way higher than Christian
higher.
Watson is. Obviously, the Packers receiver room is a little convoluted.
It's a little messy.
It's a little convoluted, but 5 of his 9 games last year, he had 7+ targets. His last 2 full regular season games, he was wide receiver 13, wide receiver 8. He had 20.4, 27.6. Had a TD in his last 3 regular season games. Even though this year was like a disappointing year production-wise, was still 6th in average depth of target, had 90.8 air yards per game, which was like top 20 in the NFL on a rate basis. 19.9% target rate, which was slightly down pretty down from 2022, where it was 25.5. But he was getting a lot of deep balls, and he had only 58.5% catchable target rate.
Listen,
Jordan Love didn't really break out until Christian Watson wasn't playing, oddly enough. But a lot of the early season games where Love wasn't really that great, Christian Watson was healthy in those.
Yeah.
So he had 14.5 expected points per game last year and only had 11.3. But 11.3 is still a solid, you're probably
floor.
a top 30, 40 in points per game there at your floor in a disappointing injury year. And obviously his rookie season was very impressive. 9 touchdowns in 13 games, 2.4 yards per route run. Like, the injury is really baked into his price at this point, I feel like. His upside is obviously very crazy.
Yeah.
Especially if Jordan Love becomes a quarterback everyone thinks he's going to be. I think he's a very good quarterback. But interesting note here, which really has me drinking the Kool-Aid on Christian Watson. His hamstrings, which have been a major concern for him, lots of injuries. A lot of them have been his hamstrings.
That's everything that's kind of affected him throughout his whole career, right?
It's been all leg stuff. He had a hamstring was what killed him last year. That was an injury last year. It kept him out for half the fucking season. Yeah. NFL gave University of Wisconsin a grant to study the prevention and treatment of hamstring injuries. And Christian Watson and Eric Stokes did this study as well. Christian Watson had a 20% difference in muscle strength between his right and left legs. That's like a massive difference. That's why he would. I believe it was the left one. I don't know. So whatever hamstring, it was the same hamstring he was killing that was getting hurt. There was a massive difference. The ideal is 6%. He says he's gotten it down to 8 and 10%. This is from an ESPN article.
Okay, so you're bringing I'm bringing a
little medical science into this right now.
Yeah.
He's by far the most explosive receiver the Packers have. If there's any truth to that hamstring thing, and he's actually healthy this year, his ceiling is through the roof.
And listen, if you're a good fantasy football player, you can't draft scared of injury because you're smart enough that you'll be able to have the depth.
Christian Watson's going in what? Underdog, he's like the 8th round. That's 3 wide receiver. In your home league, you could probably get Christian Watson the 9th or 10th round.
But if you're good enough, you shouldn't be drafting scared of injury because you'll have the depth.
You have to.
You'll be confident enough in yourself, man.
Anyone in football can get hurt, so it's not like obviously injury history does play somewhat of a role. But that's why Christian Watson goes in the 8th to 10th round.
I don't hate Christian Watson at all at this ADP. I think it's obviously I think it's a better best ball pick than redraft, and just in my
Probably
opinion.
because they're gonna be Jaden Reed might be like the main.
It's gonna
consistent
be
target getter.
Jaden Reed week. It's gonna be
a Wicks week.
It's gonna be a tight end.
There'll
week
be a
with
random
Kraft
Dobbs
and-
week, couple Dobbs
exactly.
weeks. Yeah.
So like, as much as I do like it in the redraft because he's gonna give you those 30-point
if
weeks.
one of those guys gets hurt and Watson stays healthy, like, who knows? It's just like I think the upside is so ridiculous.
And what did you? Yeah,
where he
like,
goes. He's produced when he's healthy. He's been the most productive out of the group when he's healthy. So
the most consistent.
He out-targeted Reed pretty heavily when they both played together last year. So he's their alpha when he plays. It's just a matter of him playing. If there's any truth to that hamstring thing, I hope there is. But he's a guy that could really like win your fantasy leagues where he gets drafted.
Especially if he explodes through his ceiling, which
He'll have
easily could.
He could just have a couple weeks where it's like 30, no question. And he just wins you a week on his own. He'll be you're drafting him as like your second flex probably.
But he also could just have 3 injuries.
Obviously, but if you're drafting him in like the 8th, 9th, or 10th round,
yeah, well, I guess
who
why
really
not?
gives a shit?
It's better.
He
than
goes
like
in what 7th or 8th?
Last year was like
underdog?
6th, right?
He was
6th
going
round,
high, probably
5th
higher.
round?
5th round last year.
Yeah.
He's cut his price is cut in half basically. He was going as like a top 25 wide receiver last year.
Yeah, no,
He went crazy with Rodgers at the end of his rookie season. He's flashed like fantasy brilliance.
I don't think it's bad at all.
I'm
on your side with this one.
This is my favorite wide receiver sleeper, other than the first Ninja's official sleeper, which we'll get to in a little bit.
We're back, fellas.
Let's get right back into it. Lead us off. Second wide receiver sleeper for Aiden Young Green Bean Flourisher. Who you got?
I'm going with a savvy veteran.
Savvy. This guy is a definition of a savvy veteran.
DeAndre Hopkins.
Nuke.
ADP 68, wide receiver 40.
Yeah, DeAndre Hopkins at wide receiver 40 is pretty criminal when you think about it like that.
Guys, I'm taking over him in his range. Addison, Adunze, Worthy, Ridley, which is unbelievable. Ridley
I'm
going
taking
before
him over Ridley. I agree.
Hopkins is one of the biggest war crimes of
I
2024.
agree. Hopkins over Ridley this year. I agree
Oh
with
my
you.
God. And Jaden Reed. So, like,
I'd probably take Jaden Reed over him out of that list, but I don't necessarily disagree with you there at all.
Like, Hopkins finished as the wide receiver 29 last year in a per-game basis. He also had the 9th highest target share, which will probably go down this year.
A little bit. They have him, Ridley, and Boyd.
Which is fine. But,
Offense as a whole should be way, way better.
like,
Yeah.
people don't know that, like, Ridley is also about the same age as Hopkins.
Yeah.
They're about 2 years apart.
Ridley just was a super old rookie, and Hopkins was a freak young rookie.
Exactly. So, I just think that the value there is just unbelievable.
Yeah.
Listen to this. DeAndre Hopkins is the only wide receiver priced as a top 70 redraft pick and outside the top 150 in Dynasty. How insane is that?
Is he only wide receiver priced as a top 70 redraft pick and is outside the top 150 in Dynasty?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's very undervalued in Dynasty. If you look at like Adams or Diggs.
I know this is a redraft episode,
Yeah.
but I just had to give that point because I was just like, holy
Yeah,
shit.
he is a cheap Dynasty buy if you need
He
a
is
vet
a
wide
great
receiver.
Dynasty buy. If
I
you
don't
win
disagree.
now, I
Yeah,
think he's
I
going to do
agree.
great. So, yeah. So basically, I just think that Ridley has never had like the target hog ability
No.
in his career. In his
He had
entire
that one
career.
really good season with the Falcons.
Yeah.
Last year he got a pretty good target share, but now he's playing next to DeAndre Hopkins. It's like that offense I think is going to be pretty good, honestly, especially with Callahan there.
Exactly.
But Hopkins is still the alpha there to me. He's a Hall of Fame wide receiver.
You got Will Levis with
Yeah.
a gun. He's going to
Sling
throw the
that
ball.
thing.
That offense is going to throw the ball.
Hopkins had his big games at the end of last year with Will Levis.
Exactly.
And now he has Will Levis with an offensive-minded coach.
So you're getting that discount. Wide receiver 40 on Hopkins. I'm
Agreed.
smashing that
Agreed.
all freaking day. Even if that's your wide receiver 3, he's going to give you
Money.
wide receiver 2 numbers minimum, in my
Agreed.
opinion.
I agree. I could see him easily finishing inside the top 20.
Yeah, I don't have many numbers to give you for Hopkins. I just saw that with my eye, and it kind of gave me like a
Caught
feeling.
your eye.
Yeah,
Caught your eye.
that's about it on that.
I'm going to give you some numbers on my second wide receiver
Yeah,
sleeper
go ahead.
here. Obviously, there's some bias in this, but also because I like this guy because what I see with my eyes as well, beyond the numbers. Wan'Dale Robinson, underdog wide receiver 74. You can get him in like the 14th or 15th rank. He's one of the last picks you're going to make in your fantasy drafts. Last year, he was 4th in target separation, 8th in average cushion, had a 20.3% target rate. I didn't need to see those stats to know that Wan'Dale Robinson separates really well.
Dude,
you
he's
watch
a
him play,
shifty
he's
machine.
shifty.
He's a joystick.
Yeah, he's very shifty. He's good hands. In the backstretch of last year, post-Week 13 bye, he averaged 12.2 PPR points per game with Tommy DeVito and Tyrod Taylor. Only had one touchdown at 24 catches for 250 yards in 5 games. Also tacked on 3 carries for 60 yards and a rushing touchdown. He had that long 30, 40-yard touchdown against Philly. So he was overall wide receiver 53 in 15 games. And that was only like 9 points per game. But he's getting drafted as a wide receiver 74.
It's ridiculous.
It makes no sense. Malik Neighbors is going to take a lot of pressure off of him. He's going to free up a lot of stuff over the middle of the field because you have to have 2 guys on Malik Neighbors over the top at all times.
Daniel Jones doesn't like to air
and then
it
you
out.
have, and then you have Hyde on the other side. Daniel Jones is not a guy that's airing the ball out.
No.
Wan'Dale is going to get a lot of targets.
Safety blankets.
Yes. And he's going to be open on a lot of those and the Giants designed touches for him.
His open score is always insane on Player Profile.
Yeah,
right?
he's a beast. Like, he had 60 catches last year, had 70 total touches in 15 games. I think he gets way more involved off the ACL one more year, and having Malik Neighbors next to him take off a lot of pressure, probably helping the offense as a whole.
Oh, it's gonna open up everything.
His value is just depressed because the Giants' offense is gross in theory because it's Daniel Jones, which is fair.
And if you're not like,
but he's being drafted 20 spots under his floor. He was wide receiver 53 last year, and he's receiver 74. It makes no sense to me. He's a guy that I don't know if he's going to give you a top 15 season, but you're drafting him as your last pick in the draft maybe. It's a guy that I think you'll be able to flex throughout the season consistently and has upside.
Yeah, look, if you see on Player Profiler, great website.
Shout out Player Profiler.
Target separation, 2.46.
Fourth amongst wide receivers last year.
So
he was 8th in average cushion.
He gets open by himself.
And he was target rate. He was targeted 20% of the routes he was on the field.
Exactly.
Pretty good number. I don't think he's like I said. I don't think he's giving you a top 15 season this year.
But as a
that's a guy that's a guy that I think will be a usable wide receiver 3, like top 35, top 30, especially full point PPR.
100%.
Great dynasty buy. You can probably get him for pretty cheap. Giants offense is just like an offense people don't want to buy into because it is gross.
I mean, I totally get it. As a Giant fan, why would you want to buy into that?
No, but what if they play Drew Lock and Drew Lock is doing this?
You also just got to take over, you got to wipe the dirt off and see the true beauty.
He's a beast. I think he's a diamond in the rough for fantasy this year. You get him for nothing. He's a great player. That's my second sleeper. Let's just get right into our first and inches official wide receiver sleeper this year.
Jakobi Meyers.
Jakobi Meyers. Las Vegas Raiders wide receiver.
This is a guy that is getting literally spit
on. Has been criminally undervalued.
Stepped on.
4 years in a row.
By the people.
Criminally undervalued for 3 or 4 years in a row at this point.
Even back in the days in New England.
Yeah, right? He was always a very good player.
Always one of my favorites, honestly.
He's going off the board at underdog wide receiver 58 right now. At the time I wrote this, it's probably maybe it's higher. It's late 50s.
That is just honestly disrespect.
He was a PPR wide receiver 24 last year, had 13.7 PPR points per game.
People forget he runs the ball in too.
Yeah, he had 10 total touchdowns, 2 on the ground, had 71 catches, 807 yards, 8 touchdowns. That was next to Devontae Adams, still at 21% target share. The year before, New England, 22% target share, had 12.7 points per game, was a wide receiver 29. Similar stat line, 67, 8036. And then 2021 was his best year in terms of getting targets, but didn't score as many touchdowns. Had 83 catches, 867 yards, 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, so I think that's a great
pickup there. He gets so much volume for a guy that has never been in an offense that's just really good. He's been on the Patriots, buried with the Patriots, and was with Aiden O'Connell playing number 2 next to Devontae Adams next year. And it still puts up 14 points per game PPR. And gets, he's got 20 spots under his floor.
And you're getting him in late, round 11, round 12?
Going off in the 50s of receivers. He's been a top 35 receiver 3 years in a row. You're getting him 20-something spots under his floor. It's pretty insane.
No, I just think that's just... you're literally going to get great production. And they're going to be down so much.
Yeah, I think the Raiders are an interesting fantasy team this year, especially when they're not going to start O'Connell over Minshew if they're halfway serious.
I don't think so at all.
Why would they? There's no... I mean, I guess if you want to lean into the young guy, but, Minshew's actually a solid quarterback. It makes no sense that they would play Aiden O'Connell over him.
I mean, I think their coach kind of does like O'Connell.
Yeah, Antonio Pierce is kind of a doofus, though. He's like, rah-rah, let's play the guy, They're going to play Minshew, though, man. There's no way they don't. There's no way they see both of them in camp and say, Aiden O'Connell.
Yeah, I agree. I think Minshew's probably going to... I think O'Connell might actually start off the season, but I think Minshew might end up... Once they see O'Connell...
Minshew's going to play at least half the games this year.
Yeah.
At least.
100%.
At least.
Yeah, and they have nobody else besides...
Well, it's Adams, Bowers, Meyers. They have some decent pass weapons, but they have no run game. Like, do you trust Zamir White, Madison with their offensive line? I don't at all.
I don't think Zamir White's as bad as you do, but I just...
But is that a guy you're, like, dying on the hill for? Like, this guy's going to be a beast.
No.
Exactly.
Not at all.
They're going to be passing the ball a lot.
They're going to have to, and especially if they're going to be down. I mean...
They're in a tough division. They're in a tough division. I mean, the Broncos are dog water, too, but they play the Chiefs and the Chargers, who should be pretty decent quarter of their schedule. Yeah. AFC's brutal. Yeah, they're going to be down a lot, slinging that shit with Gardner Minshew. So I think Jakobi Meyers going like 10th, 12th round is just criminal, especially after the year he had last year. Devontae Adams opens up so much for him. He's seeing singles all game.
Yeah.
Now you add in Bowers. But like he's just had this consistent volume of like 70 catches, 800 yards every year. It's a floor guy, but it's a guy that you can comfortably flex if you really need to.
Totally agreement, man. I love that for us.
Love that.
We're going to come back next year and be like, that was one of the greatest picks the First and Inches boys have done.
I wish our DJ Moore video came out last year. We had some technical difficulties like we always do.
We created this absolute...
It was a beauty.
It was Einstein-level formulas, honestly.
It was insane. It was like a 20-minute video of us ranting about how DJ Moore was going to be the breakout receiver. And he was.
Yeah.
I know this sounds like the fucking LeBron meme where it's like, oh, I knew Kobe was going to score 81 points.
But this is actually true. We've
had some good calls.
We have
let's not pat ourselves on the back too much.
No, listen, we've had some great
Jakobi
calls.
Meyers could just break his leg. It's July 1st. And
I've also said James Robinson was going to be a league winner, top 3 running back. I'll say it right now.
Hey, that's what we do here. Just talk out of our ass a little bit with some numbers and hope it sticks, right?
Yeah, literally, we're throwing a piece of ham to the floor and see if we don't slip on it. Come on. So, like...
That's not a saying I've ever heard before, but I like it. I'm gonna incorporate it into my daily verbiage. I like that. Throw a piece of ham on the floor and hope I don't slip over it. Thank you guys for watching. Like, subscribe, comment, send this to your mother, grandmother. We love you guys.
Have a great one. Peace out, boys.
Peace.